Hey everyone, my name is Beth Shaum. I'm an 8th grade English teacher in Allen Park, Michigan. I am also the social media coordinator for NCTE.
Hi, my name is Dave Kangas. I teach at Wayne Memorial High School. I teach 11th grade and 12th grade, and I am a member of the Eastern Michigan Writing Project.
We are both actually members of the Eastern Michigan Writing Project, and we do various things for the Eastern Michigan Writing Project. We are in a teacher research group, and we are also part of a teacher advocacy group, which we're going to talk about right now. So one of the things that we would like to discuss is how doing teacher advocacy has changed how we think of ourselves as teachers. So what has been your experience with that, Dave?
Well, I think the advocacy work that we've started this year has really helped me recapture some of the beliefs that I have about writing, for instance. What I mean by that, it seems I've, over the last couple of years, gotten away from kind of the core values that I have as a teacher with all the standardized testing and assessment. And I think the advocacy work has kind of helped me name those beliefs in better ways so they're clear to me and my students, and it makes my practice better, and it makes the communication between my students that much clearer and that much better. And I think it's the word vocation. I think the advocacy work helps us think about our work in more of an ethical way, and that we want to bring our students into this conversation with us about what we're actually doing together, giving students voice. I think the advocacy helps us do that as teachers.
I think for me, the biggest thing that the advocacy group has helped me to see is this idea that, I think so many teachers work in a bubble. They close their classroom doors and they don't interact with adults very often during the day. And it's very easy to isolate ourselves. And so this idea of finding allies, which is what our advocacy group leader, Kathy Fleischer, talks about a lot, is this: how can we find allies? Because I think a lot of times we don't see ourselves as having allies, but we haven't gone out and actually sought them out. And so I think that's a big takeaway that I've had from doing this advocacy work, is that finding those allies is something that you have to go out and seek. It's not just, they don't always just come to you.
I think you said something really important about how the advocacy work gets us out of our classrooms and to engage with our colleagues in a positive way, where practice becomes deprivatized in a way. So I think that advocacy is so important to getting us out of our classrooms and sharing what good things we're actually doing with our kids. And I'm wondering though now what kind of tactics you have used to kind of get yourself and your advocacy out there to other colleagues and students or parents or the community.
One of the things that I actually did this year, I was very strategic about it, is our school got a new principal, and she was actually the vice principal, and she came up and was promoted to principal. And I saw that as an opportunity to find an ally. And so that was something that I contacted her during the summer, and I said, hey, I'm doing this work with NCTE and with the Eastern Michigan Writing Project, and I have some ideas that I'd like to share with you. And I think so often we find our administrators as just evaluators, and I intentionally sought out the idea of using the administrator role as more of a collegial role rather than just like your top-down. I mean, yes, I respect her as my boss, and as I should, but I think looking at them as colleagues, not just as your evaluator, is a powerful thing to do.
Yeah, and I've been thinking really hard about the tactics that I've been using for the last year, and I think sometimes it's just getting ourselves out there and joining and participating in committees that we feel are important to our students. For instance, I participated in a writing committee this last year, engaging others in conversations about what we value as teachers and what kind of writing projects we want to see our kids doing. I think that's kind of gotten away from us the last couple of years when this privatization practice is, our voice has been kind of been taken away. And I think this advocacy helps us reclaim that voice to really kind of clarify to ourselves and our kids what it is that we're trying to accomplish with them together. And the tactics that I think have been really helpful for me is sometimes just kind of flipping that switch where we just say to someone that could be a colleague or administrator, where we talk to someone and say, hey, I'm really trying to understand this practice or this assignment. What do you think I could do? Or how do you think I might make this better? Or what do you see in this piece of writing that I might be missing? And kind of just switch the talk to inquiry. That's one tactic that we can kind of apply in many different situations. It's about the research that we do as teacher researchers to try to get others to see themselves too as trying to understand something, and that translates to kids too. Because when they see us thinking like researchers and talking inquiry, then they too start to take on those habits of mind. And I think that's one way that tactics kind of go through the whole network in very interesting ways.
And I think, another tactic, you talking about that made me think about something I mentioned this morning, which was the idea of, a tactic that I've really tried to push for is this idea that, negative attitudes spread, but so do positive attitudes.
Yeah.
And so I try not to go to the teacher's lounge and complain. I try to go to the teacher's lounge and share positive stories in my classroom, and not just in the teacher's lounge, but also on social media. I'm friends with a lot of my colleagues on social media, and I want them to see all the great things that our kids can do. And that has actually, I think, helped bring a sense of community as well, because they see how enthusiastic the kids are about learning, and they can see the students in a different light.
I think that's so critical to see our students as co-researchers with us, trying to figure things out, trying to make meaning, and advocacy helps us do that. It gets us in touch with those beliefs that we want to, the beliefs that NCT has about writing and reading that we can actually explore and actually use with kids. Which leads me to a question out here about what would you say to someone who's coming to advocacy for the first time? What would you tell them who's just getting started?
Well, I think one of the big things is, this idea of finding allies is huge, and starting small. I think one of the things that we see in the media so often is the the vitriol that is so often brought forth on our profession, and so we want to fight that, but we don't know how because it feels so big. And so we have to be able to find a way to start small, to start in our own communities, and in that way it feels less daunting. So yeah, I think that's huge, is the whole starting small idea.
Yeah, and I think starting small is, for me, is if I had to tell someone how to get started, is just to kind of keep a notebook of all those things that you see and wonder about, things that kids do that make you wonder, or things that happen in class that catch your attention, and keep a record of those. And then at some point in time, take a moment to take stock of what those things are, and to connect, like you said, with social media, attend a conference, trying to build relationships with people who are still continuing to learn and desire to learn about the profession. I think that's the most powerful part of, of our teacher research work, that there's that desire to keep learning, that when I see you doing that, it helps me continue my own work. And it's just so important to young teachers especially to find those people who are still figuring things out, because I think a lot of young teachers get into the profession and they're told this is what you need to do and this is how things are done, but when they're alone in the classroom, we all know that things start to happen that make us wonder, well, what's going on here? And I think that would be the question I would share with them, is to continually ask, what is happening here? And how can I understand this practice better?
I think, going back to the whole starting small thing, we are here at NCTE.
Yes.
So I think a really great way to start small is just to familiarize yourself with those NCTE position statements, with those research documents that support best practices, so that if something is happening in your school or your community that does not support best practices, you have those documents from, an organization that's been around for 105 years and who's been doing the research for that long. NCTE is the oldest literacy organization in the country, so we have those supporting documents for teachers out there.
Yeah, I would encourage anyone to take a look at those documents, especially the formative assessment documents, any of the documents that we have that release about writing are especially important to me these days. So I think NCT is advocacy. I mean, that is what we do here. We're advocating for each other when we're here, and we're feeding off each other's desire. I think that's so critical.
Yeah, I remember vividly last year during Ernest Morrell's presidential address, he said, it's not about making the case for advocacy, it's about making the case for you as advocates, and seeing us all as advocates. And NCT is called the National Council of Teachers of English, but we have so much so many resources that support all teachers, not just English teachers. So this is, you're right, MCTE is advocacy. So, all right, well, thanks
Hey, thank
for
you.
being here, Dave.
No, thank you for doing this. This is so awesome. You're doing great work.